Hi guys, and welcome to today's video, which is all about the problem with female leopard geckos. I am joined today with my eldest female leopard gecko, Gizmo, who will be 13 years old this year. Now before we begin, I did just want to let you know that I finally have new merch. I feel like spring and summer is for splooting, so the new design is Sploot Like You Mean It, featuring Miss Ziggy here. I have been very inspired by the sheer amount of splooting she's been doing since getting her deep heat projector. So yeah, we had this new little range of merch, which I'll leave a link below to the Teespring store, along with a discount code for you guys, but the code is only for a limited time, so don't miss out. Anyway, back to the video. So yes, if you have female leopard geckos who are a few years old, you may have noticed that in spring and summer they go off of their food. Now, I have found that this is less noticeable if you just have one single female, as there is a theory that once one female ovulates, it sets the rest off. So if you have multiple girls, not even like obviously living in the same cage or anything, just maybe in the same area, this kind of triggers each other. Now, I find that when they're ovulating, they will flat out refuse food, and unlike during the partial brumation period, they do not keep the weight on well. Now, I have spoken about this topic multiple times. I did a video like the ovulation situation. I talk about it in the year of a life of a leopard gecko, where I discuss all the behavioural changes you may notice in your gecko season to season, and I have covered this multiple times in my weigh-in videos. When I first noticed this issue of refusing to eat due to ovulating, I couldn't find anything online about it. All I could ever find was videos and articles about gravid leopard geckos refusing to eat. So those were the geckos who had been bred with, who were carrying fertile eggs. And when I started to talk about the ovulation situation and what I'd noticed with my girls, more and more of you guys had noticed it as well, and then I realised, oh, this is actually something that happens every single year. Why is this not covered more? And that's why I do these videos, because it's something I observe absolutely every year. Now, those geckos who have been bred with that were carrying fertile eggs, they sort of have a limited time to carry those eggs, and then they have to lay them. However, when your gecko's just ovulating, technically they could carry them around all spring. So the gecko then refuses to eat all spring, and they will only eat until the eggs are either laid or reabsorbed. Now keep in mind that if the gecko's eggs have formed a shell, they can no longer reabsorb them and they must be laid. Now, of course, one solution to this issue would be to have the gecko spayed. However, surgery is really risky with reptiles, especially of this size. So to me, unless it was emergency, like an egg was stuck, something like that, I wouldn't just casually spring surgery onto my gecko. So because of that, every year we have to go through the motions. Every year I get stressed out because my females literally refuse to eat everything, even waxworms. Now, the only reassurance I have is that because they've done this for multiple years, and over those years I have weighed them, I have noticed somewhat of a trend with each of their weights. So in a way, though they do drop weight quite drastically, they're actually following the same path each year. So I would definitely encourage you to weigh your females maybe monthly, so you can pick up on their own pattern, because every gecko is slightly different. Now, one thing I do in this time is, though they aren't eating, I do make sure they have access to calcium, and I get them to lick some vitamin and minerals off of my finger just to make sure they're topped up. Now, I do have a little idea of something we can do to combat this issue. Now, it's not going to stop them ovulating, we aren't going to breed our geckos, and we aren't going to spay them. But what we could do is, in those times where our geckos are actually eating, so after breeding season and after partial brumation, or after they've laid eggs or reabsorbed them, in those times maybe we should feed them a little more regularly, especially before breeding season. So I'd say for an adult you feed them every 3 or 4 days. What if we fed them a little more regularly, maybe little and often, but so they had a higher weight at the start of breeding season? We know they will lose a considerable amount of weight, but maybe if they start at a higher weight, they won't be in that position near the end of it where they're very skinny and they seem very fragile. I mean, I've seen Gizmo drop her weight so severely just due to ovulating, it's scary. So maybe if she started off at a higher weight, maybe that would help. So whether this will work, I'm not sure, but it's definitely something I'm going to consider doing later in the year. A couple things you guys may find interesting is number one, female leopard geckos can go through the menopause apparently. Apparently this happens around 9 years old. They weren't sure if it was down to age or the fact that the gecko runs out of eggs. I'm gonna say maybe the gecko runs out of eggs because, as I said, Gizmo will be 13 this year, Minnie will be 12, they're still ovulating. Another thing is, and definitely something to consider if you're thinking of breeding geckos, is it can shorten the female's life. I don't know how much by, but I guess if you're breeding them continuously, that definitely shortens it. I don't know the long-term effects of ovulating and laying eggs. I really hope it doesn't shorten their life too much. It's something I can't stop unless, as I said, I put them in surgery. So I really hope it doesn't affect them too much. I really hope I haven't put you off females too much. I wouldn't change mine for the world, just ovulation is pretty tough on them, so be prepared. And if you're one of the fortunate people who have one female leopard gecko and they don't really seem affected by this, you're so lucky. This is so annoying. This happens every year for me. It's so frustrating. You'll have to also let me know if there are other reptiles who go through similar behavioural patterns like this. I haven't really noticed it with my crested gecko, but that might be because I have one female crested gecko. And also, if you didn't know, female leopard geckos with disorders like Enigma syndrome actually suffer even worse with ovulation than those without those disorders. If you want to learn more about geckos with problems like that and so on, check out Jessica's Animal Friend, she covers that really well. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you check out the merch, I'll leave the link below and you can get your discount code. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you for watching guys, and goodbye.